morning. I don't know if you caught it or not. It's been floating around the interwebs. I don't think people have been making quite as much of it as it's appropriate to make of it. But there is, and I'll play it here for you in a second. Let me just set it up. But it's basically Jesse Jackson hanging out, doing whatever the hell a Jesse Jackson does in Ferguson to try and profiteer off of the situation. And it's a bunch of peaceful Ferguson protesters rolling up on him, I think at a McDonald's. Funkhouser, do you have this?
Hey, Jesse Jackson, how you doing? Are you here to support us? You are? You've been marching all day long? We haven't seen you marching all day long. We haven't seen you. Hey, are you going to pay the bond of those brothers that's been locked up? What about the brother that filmed the Eric Garner murder? Are you going to post his bond?
Hey, you marching today with us, or you just gonna sit in the car?
Because we haven't seen you marching at all, Jesse. We ain't seen you. When you gonna stop selling us out, Jesse? We don't want you here in St. Louis. When you gonna stop selling us out, Jesse? No, ain't no wait a minute, brother. This is real. We activists out here. We activists out here, brother. This is real. We don't want you here. You're not a leader. You're not a leader. We don't want you here, brother. Matter of fact, you're not even a brother. You could keep moving and get the brothers out of jail. That's what you could do.
It's kind of telling stuff, isn't it? Kind of, I don't know what you would call it. Illuminating, perhaps. Now, if you listen to the show at all, you know I've kind of been railing against folks like Jesse Jackson and Al Sharpton over the last couple of weeks. Why? Because it's important. It's important because these are, make no mistake, troubled times in terms of divides, whether they be religious divides in the Middle East that are working their way to Europe and America with frightening speed, or whether they're domestic divides here on American soil. For the sake of brevity and not trying to dance around anything, well, let's just call them black-white divides. Let's just call them that. Now, if you're around my age, if you're one of those sort of like people with 1 foot in Generation Y and 1 foot in the millennial pool, well, there's a very good chance you grew up like me, never having experienced racism. Things appear to be getting worse, not better. What does Jesse Jackson have to do with it? Why do these protesters have to call him out? Why do we have to call him out? It is so important that we do. Joining the conversation at ADSXE at Funk FM.
What's that sound? Coming so loud from your radio dial. AD, be getting down when you're rocking the jams. Here I am, going back once again. I'm ruling all.
If you're just joining us, we found this piece of audio from Ferguson. Some peaceful protesters rolling up on Jesse Jackson, I think at a McDonald's. Let's hear that again. If you're just joining us, you can catch up.
Hey, Jesse Jackson, how you doing? Are you here to support us? You are? You've been marching all day long? We haven't seen you marching all day long. We haven't seen you. Hey, are you going to pay the bond of those brothers that's been locked up? What about the brother that filmed the Eric Garner murder? Are you going to post his bond?
Hey, you marching today with us, or you just gonna sit in the car?
Because we haven't seen you marching at all, Jesse. We ain't seen you. When you gonna stop selling us out, Jesse? We don't want you here in St. Louis. When you gonna stop selling us out, Jesse? No, ain't no wait a minute, brother. This is real. We activists out here. We activists out here, brother. This is real. We don't want you here. You're not a leader. You're not a leader. We don't want you here, brother. Matter of fact, you're not even a brother. You could keep moving and get the brothers out of jail. That's what you could do.
When he got to stop selling us out, I think is the important integral piece. That's my takeaway from that piece of audio. See, like it's one thing for someone like me to be like, hey, Jesse Jackson, Al Sharpton are race baiters. They profit off of racial divides. They're just seeking to make them bigger so that hateful cash cow that they've been milking for the last 20, 30 years doesn't run dry. Yeah, it's one thing for me to say that. And people will be like, racist. No, quite the opposite. See, I'm disturbed by... I'm disturbed by the level of what I perceive to be racism in this country. But like I said, it's one thing for me to point this out. It's an entirely different thing for peaceful protesters who feel the brunt of this racial divide way more than someone like I could, being a white dude. They feel the brunt of this racial divide, and they're holding Jesse Jackson accountable for selling them out, for profiting off of this divide. If you're like me, growing up, you never really experienced racism. I mean, I knew it was out there. I remember the first time I ever met a racist. I was like 16 years old, and I was visiting America from England, and a bunch of high school kids wanted to go get underage drunk, and they wanted to buy beer for their keg party, and they're like, yeah, we can't get beer here. We're going to have to drive over to N-word town to get it. And I was like, oh, did he really just say that? And they're like, yeah, the N-words will sell us beer. And I was like, that's really... I never heard it. Never. I've seen it on TV, heard about it in movies, knew it was out there, but never had experienced someone being racist in front of me. And I was like, yeah, I think I'm going to skip your party. You don't seem like the type of people I want to party with. And I excused myself from the situation. But it was ugly. But that's how rare racism was. That is how rare it was. Yet, over the last couple of years, I feel like I encounter it over and over and over again. And I think a big part of the reason why you see people like Jesse Jackson and Al Sharpton doing what they do, race baiting, left, right, and center. You never see them sort of campaigning against black-on-black violence, black-on-black murders. Statistically speaking, a much larger threat to the black community. If you're just boiling it down to numbers, you never see them going after that, do you? No, because there's no place to wedge yourself in and paint yourself up as this paladin of civil rights, and you don't get to hide behind the guise of civil rights. See, civil rights is an interesting one because, it's a word that you can hide behind, or it's a set of words you can hide behind. Like civil rights. These are good things. Civil rights, good things. Equality, good things. So if you say, I'm for civil rights and equality, it almost makes you beyond reproach. It almost makes you beyond inspection. And the Jesse Jacksons and Al Sharptons of this world have been milking this hateful cash cow for a long time. And it seems like people are finally starting to catch on. If you're not familiar with how Jesse Jackson makes his money, it's basically extortion. What he does is he threatens people or companies with boycotts of news media coverage. Then the company offers to pay him off, donate to their cause from which they draw their salary. Like, I don't know if you know this one. Jesse Jackson approached Toyota with the idea that they needed more minority inclusion. Toyota was afraid if they didn't play along, they'd be labeled a racist company, and that's a huge PR disaster. So they met with Jackson, worked out a deal. Donated huge sums of money to charities old Jesse was affiliated with, where he gets his salary from. The bigger story, I think, might be the one where Jesse Jackson threatened to boycott Anheuser-Busch. What did Anheuser-Busch do? They turned around, they offered his son an Anheuser-Busch distributorship, which they happily accepted. An Anheuser-Busch distribution. I'm so befuddled I can barely speak. It's not just that I suck at radio, it's just that I can barely speak because of befuddlement. An Anheuser-Busch distributorship. You know how much money something like that makes? It's a lot. Anheuser-Busch, I suppose, were sort of like, feeling like, okay, we're going to have to pay this guy a ton of money. We might as well move some of our product on the flip side of the coin. So they did that. But the reason I think that you're finding Jesse Jackson and Al Sharpton sticking their oar in so much more frequently, so much more violently, doing everything they can to create a black-white divide in America is because that's their thing. That's how they make money. That's how they profiteer, off of a black-white divide. And you know what? We are, I believe in my heart, and I'm sure you probably believe in your heart too, we are moving forward. We are moving into better times. We are moving into times where things like racism, the right for gay people to get married, we are moving ahead on lots of these issues. And just like churches and political leaders make money off of homophobia, on the white and black side of the equation in this country, there are people that make huge sums of cash off of being racist, whether it's the KKK or whether it's Jesse Jackson and Al Sharpton. There's money to be made off of these things. And as people come to their freaking senses and realize that people are people and that our differences should be celebrated and admired as opposed to cause for division and anger, as people come to their freaking senses, well, you're going to see people like, I don't know, the Catholic Church, like that Bishop Pop Rocky, who performed an exorcism on all of Illinois, the entire state of Illinois. When gay marriage became legal in Illinois, he performed an exorcism because he said, well, obviously the entire state's demonically possessed if we are allowing gay marriage here. Why are they doing such ridiculous things? Why is this hate speech, this speech of division, getting that much stronger? Because they're seeing we're coming to the end of the road and they want to make every last penny out of the situation that they can before they have to find a new business model. The Catholic Church can no longer inspire fear of gay, or any church. Churches in general can no longer inspire fear of gay the way they used to. Everybody has a gay friend. Fear is caused by the unknown. And you know what? You have to be sitting there with your eyes closed to have not met or interacted with a gay person and realized, hey, besides the fact that they think same-sex genitalia is absolutely delicious, really, there's not a ton of difference between the two of us. We both mow our lawns. We both, kind of work hard for a living, and whatever. They're doing their thing. I'm doing my thing. It seems to have nothing to do with each other, but we hang out at block parties, or maybe they're really good friends. But whatever the case may be, people are becoming more familiar with that which they used to be afraid of. And when you make money by saying, there's this thing you should be afraid of, and I'll protect you from it if you pass a collection plate, or there's this thing you should be afraid of, it's called the white devil, or it's called the black man, and I can protect you from it if you donate to my campaign. When that starts to run out, this is when you see folks like Jesse Jackson, Al Sharpton, idiotic religious leaders that would seek to divide us, hate groups, white supremacists, all of the above, anyone that profits off of a divide, and make no mistake, it's all about profit. The foot soldiers, like the idiot pawns in these particular games, they might believe the rhetoric, but the people pulling the strings, the puppet masters, the leaders of churches, the leaders of white supremacy groups, the leaders of so-called civil rights organizations, they make money off of this. And the people that they convert to their so-called causes are unwitting pawns in their chess game of making mad loot. And in this situation, when that mad loot's about to run out, you're going to see people pressing harder and harder and harder to divide us, and harder and harder and harder to make the last pieces of money they can out of this situation, and you cannot be taken in by it. You cannot let them. So I applaud these protesters in Ferguson for calling Jesse Jackson out for being what he is. Someone who is, and I quote, selling them out. Be smart. Don't be sold out. Hey, Funkhouser, what's going on in the world? Should we take a look at the events of today in My Witness News? In no way, shape, or form fair, certainly not balanced.
Boom! I guess we can until the break in about 2 minutes.
About 2 minutes? All right, we will